Namaskaraha and welcome to our next session on yogic life. So today I want to talk a little bit about Papa and Punya, right? So we know Vyasa, who wrote the 18 Puranas, Ashtadasha Puranas. He wrote Vyasa. Vyasa was a Mahapandit, was a Jnani. So at the end of the day, what did Vyasa say about Papa and Punya? So Ashtadasha Puraneshu Vyasasya Vachanadvayam Paropakarah Punyaya Papaya Parapidanam. So this is what he said at the end of the day. So he wrote the Puranas. So, and at the end of the day, what is the key takeaway of the Puranas is that only two things that we need to take away from the Puranas. One is Paropakarah Punyaya Parapidanam Papaya. So if you help anybody, that leads to Punya. If you harm somebody, it leads to Papa. So in this context, it is important to understand what is Purana, what is Kavya, what is Itikata, what is Itihasa. Right? So these are the words that are used very often. So it's important to understand what these words are. So the question is, Vyasa wrote these 18 Puranas. So the question is, why did he write these Puranas? Right? What is the need to write these Puranas? So Vyasa was a Mahapandit. He was a great Jnani, right? And in the Puranas, there are a lot of imaginative stories, right? So through the imaginative stories, what he wanted to communicate at the end of the day was that if you help others, it leads to Punya. If you harm others, it leads to Papa. So in that context, what is the meaning of Purana? Purana is actually it contains imaginative stories, but they have an educative value. They give moral values to whoever reads those Puranas, right? So it is Shikshaprad. So that is what is Puranas. So anything which contains stories and which is having educative value, that is what we call as Purana. So what is a Kavya? Kavya is, something which may or may not have educative values. It is also it is also based on imagination. It is also having imaginative stories, but the focus of Kavya is not on providing educative value, right? It could or it could not, but what is the main goal of Kavya is it is rasa. It provides rasa, right? It is entertaining and it attracts the attention of the listener or one who is watching a play based on Kavya, right? So Vakyam Rasatmakam Kavyam, one which has rasa, which has sarasata, right? That is what is a Kavyam. It may or may not have educative value, right? Like for instance, if you say Akasha Pushpam, in the Kavya you can see Akasha Pushpam. So Akasha Pushpam is purely imaginative. There is a flower in the sky and it describes the flower in great detail. And that may, the intent of doing that is just to attract the attention of the listener, right? There is no intent of providing any educative value, right? So Kavyam is Vakyam Rasatmakam, right? It is having Sarasata. Sarasata, the story has Sarasata. It has a particular flow. It attracts the attention of the listener. That is what is a Kavya. And Purana is not like that. Purana may or may not have rasa, but the goal of Purana is to provide moral values to whoever is reading or listening to that. And then what is Itikata? Itikata means history, right? Itikata we also call as Purakata, yeah, Itivrittam, Puravrittam. These are all the different words we use for history, right? So what is it? It is actually doing a Panjikaranam of the Ghatana. All the events that happened, you record the events as they happened, right? During a particular point and during a particular period of time, what are all the events that happened? You record all those events, and that is what is history. And history may or may not have educative value. So the goal over there is not to provide any moral values or anything. It's just to record the events as they happened. So that's why we call it as Itikata, Purakata, Itivrittam, Puravrittam. So these are the names that we give. And what is itihasa, right? Itihasa. So of the itikata, the portion of the itikata which provides educative value, right? Only that portion of the history which provides educative value is called as itihasa, right? In English we don't have an equivalent of itihasa, right? Itikata we can say history, but itihasa is a portion of history which is providing educative value, which is having moral values, like Mahabharata. Mahabharata is itihasa. It is a part of the history and it is providing educative value. So that is why it is called as itihasa, right? So Mahabharata is itihasa, it is not itikata. So by listening to the Puranas, right? By listening to the Puranas, by listening to the itihasa, what happens is that it elevates the mind. It elevates the mind. We know that we have physical strata, we have the mental strata, we have the psycho-spiritual strata, and then spiritual strata, right? So by the moral force or by the educative value of these Puranas or itihasa, what happens is that your mental strata, you get elevation of the mental strata. It is giving you moral values and you get elevation of the mental strata. And so you will not call history as itihasa. We cannot say Mahabharata is history. Mahabharata is not history. Mahabharata is itihasa. Mahabharata is not itikata. So that difference we need to understand. So itihasa doesn't have an pratishabda in English. There is no equivalent word for itihasa in English. So Vyasa wrote these 18 Puranas to provide educative moral values to people, right? So at the end of the day, Vyasa's only having two, his overall goal was to provide two key messages: paropakaraha punyaya, right? So by doing paropakara, you're elevating somebody else. When you elevate somebody else, you're getting punya, right? And that is different from the sahajanaitikta. It's different from the simple morality, right? Simple morality, like you have to tell the truth, right? So that is expected of a human being, to speak the truth, right? Because of speaking the truth, by speaking the rita, somebody is getting elevated. It's not like that, right? So, and cardinal values have nothing to do with the papa and punya. So you have to have a certain behavior in the society, and that is simple morality, and it has no connection with the papa and punya. But when do you get this punya, right? You get this punya when through your karma you're elevating somebody, then only you get this punya, right? And by your karma somebody is getting adogati, then that is parapakaraha, parasya apakaraha, and that leads to papa, right? That is why you say paropakaraha punyaya papaya parapidanam. So simply just telling the truth, right, and behaving properly in the society, that has no connection with the papa and punya. If I'm speaking the truth all the time, that doesn't have you're expected to do that. Simple morality, you're expected to do that, and because of that you're not elevating somebody. On the other hand, if you're telling the truth and as a result of the truth, it is the satya that you're telling is actually different from the rita, right? Rita is actually factual, and the satya that you're telling is little different from the rita, and you're telling that to actually protect somebody, right? Somebody is in harm, and you're telling that satya, which is different from the rita, to protect somebody, then that is elevating, right? And that leads to punya. By telling by the satya, if it is hitakari for somebody, then that leads to punya. So like for instance, there are like three people chasing one person, right? Let's say three thieves are chasing one man, right? And that man, he goes into somebody's house and he hides there. So the thieves come there knocking on the door of that house, and the owner of that house, who gave the sharanagati to that person who came running, So the thieves asked him, did you see that man who was running? So what is the rita? Rita is that this person saw that person who came running and he's in the house. That is the rita. If he says the rita, then the person who is in the house will get harmed. He might be killed, right? So that is rita. But in that situation, what should that owner of the house do? Should he say the rita or should he say the satya? So satya is, he should say that that person is not inside, that nobody came here, I do not see anybody, nobody came here. That is what is satya, because that is hitakari. He is protecting somebody by saying that, even though it is different from rita, that is satya. Satya is something which is hitakari for somebody, and that hitakari, that satya that you told, that is actually punya. But rita per se, that the expectation that you have simple morality, that you have to walk on the path of the rita, right? That because of that you do not get punya. When you do something for others through your action, then you get a punya, and because of that somebody is getting elevated, right? So then that leads to punya. If you're doing something only for yourself, right, only for yourself, you're doing some good work, then that is not leading to any punya, right? So when you do something for others, when you elevate somebody else, that will create good sanskaras, right? And that through that good sanskaras you get the punya, and that punya, through that punya you get sukham, right? So somebody who is doing adhyatmic chintan all the time, right? So through that what happens is that he gets good sanskaras, and the kusanskaras get destroyed, right? And then he also gets adhyatmic unnati, he gets elevation, right? But that is not like but that you cannot call as punya, right? Because of that somebody else is not getting elevated, right? So until and unless somebody is getting elevated because of your action, until that point you cannot call as punya. And because of your action, if somebody is getting degraded, right, you're causing some harm to somebody, that is actually called as papa, right? So the cardinal values, the sahaj naitikata, the simple morality, right, that has nothing to do with the papa and punya, right? So to tell the truth is a natural thing that is expected of a human being. So the animals and plants also operate according to the Prakriti's design. So human beings also are expected to operate according to the Prakriti's design, but we do not. We challenge Prakriti, and we do not, right? We do not even follow the basic tenet of telling the truth, right? So just like eating is natural, taking bath is natural, like that telling the truth is also natural. So that doesn't have any relation with the papa and punya. But when you don't tell that rita, when you don't tell the truth, then what happens is, what is expected, you're not following the rules of Prakriti, so what is expected of you, you don't do, then you become worse than an animal, right? So human beings are intelligent, right? They're intelligent beings, and we do not want to go below the pashu, right? We do not want to follow below the pashu. We want to proceed forward, right? From Manushya we want to become Devata, right? We know what our marga is. So what should we do is, obviously we should follow the sahajanaitikta, we should follow the the basic, the simple morality, right? And also in addition to that, we should also elevate our mind through adhyatmic chintan, right? By doing that we get shanti, by doing that we get ananda, right? And we can live in this world in a peaceful manner. So after getting this human body, if we don't do sadhana, then we become worse than an animal, right? Because the animals don't have the opportunity of doing sadhana, they don't have the samarthya for doing sadhana, they don't have that physical and intellectual capability to do the sadhana. But human beings have the physical and intellectual capacity to do sadhana, and if we don't do that sadhana, then we are unfortunate and we fall below the pashu. We fall below the pashu. So overall, the key takeaway of what I have been talking about is that the paropakaraha, when we say, it is essentially capturing the key tenet of yoga, which is jagat hit and atma moksha. Atma moksha and jagat hit are two tenets of yoga, right? One, you strive for your atma mokshartham, you do sadhana, and then the other is seva, jagat hit seva. So this paropakaraha is nothing but seva, right? We need to, when you do seva, when you're elevating somebody, then automatically you get elevated, right? So each of us should ask ourselves, is there every day we should be doing some seva, right? There should not be a single day where we live only for ourselves. We should be doing at least something for other people. We should think about other people. We should do something for other people. So if you're only thinking about yourself all the time, then you're only elevating your ahankara, and which actually leads to adogatihi. So if you want to progress spiritually, one should engage in doing seva. That is what is paropakaraha. By doing paropakaraha, your mind gets elevated. That not only you're getting punya, but also your mind gets elevated. But a sadhaka is doing paropakaraha not for punya, right? He is doing paropakaraha not for punya. He is doing paropakaraha for pleasing Paramapurusha. His goal of life is to attain that supreme entity, and to attain that supreme entity, he needs to elevate his mind. He needs to make his mind a proper reflecting plate, so that the consciousness gets fully reflected there, and his small I merges with the supreme I. In order to do that, his mental plate should be clean, right? His chittam should be very clean, shuddham, right? To do that chitta shuddhi, he needs to do seva. So the more and more you do seva, the malas of the mind get removed. So the only way for removing the malas of the mind, right? So because of the past sanskaras and because of the past pashu jivana, the mind has the pashu vrittis, and the mind gets contaminated with shadripus and ashtapashas. So because of that, because of the shadripus, ripus and ashtapashas, the mind is not becoming a clear reflecting plate. In order to make it a clear reflecting plate, so that the small I can merge with this big I, so one needs to do seva, one needs to do paropakaraha. So the importance of seva cannot be said enough, right? It's very, very important, and for those who are doing seva will understand, right? By doing seva, you're also elevating yourself, and you're also elevating the other person, right? If somebody doesn't have food and you're giving them food, you're elevating the other person, right? And also you're elevating yourself, right? It is actually both ways. So it's not only beneficial for the other person, it's also beneficial for yourself. So that is the key takeaway from today's class. So we will continue with our pravachan, intuitional practice, sadhana is today's lesson. So I'm going to share my screen in just a second. So today's lesson is intuitional practice. So we have been saying that the goal of life is to attain that supreme entity, and for that purpose we need to do sadhana, right? In order to do sadhana, we need to learn it properly from a guru, right? So somebody who is not in bondage, he is the one who can get us out of bondage, right? If somebody is not freed, somebody is in prison, then he cannot help us to get out of the prison. So he needs to be outside the prison. So that Nirguna Brahma is not that entity, because Nirguna Brahma doesn't even recognize its existence. It is without gunas. Only when the gunas impact Purusha, then Purusha recognizes itself, I exist. Right? Until that point, the Nirguna Purusha doesn't even recognize its own existence, so leave alone helping others. So the Nirguna Purusha cannot help us get emancipated. So the only entity that can help us attain that supreme rank is somebody who is located at the tangent of the Nirguna and Saguna Brahma. He is called as a Taraka Brahma. Tarayati Asman. He helps us cross the samsara sagara. So he is the one who guides, right? When the human being is ready, right? When he has the mukti akanksha, when he has a deep desire to get liberated, right? He is leading this Pashu Jivanam yuga after yuga, and he says, enough, I don't want to lead this life anymore, right? At that point in time, that Paramapurusha, he himself manifests in front of that person as Taraka Brahma, and he will actually guide us to cross the samsara sagara. He'll teach us the sadhana, the technique of doing sadhana, and also the yama, niyama, all of those things that are required, the sadhana angas, and help us cross this samsara sagara. So Paramapurusha, he himself he'll take the help of the fundamental factors, the Panchabhutas, and he'll appear before you and help us cross this samsara sagara. So that is the sadhaka should be ready, in the sense that human being, his eyes have inner eyes have opened, and he realizes that I don't want to lead this Pashu Jivanam anymore, right? I want this Nirantara Sukham, right? I want Ananta Sukham, right? At that point in time, it becomes the duty of Paramapurusha to show that Guru to you, right? So anybody who learns sadhana, it is not happening by chance. Everything is happening according to the design of Paramapurusha. So we should always remember this Prapativada, right? So nothing in this universe is happening according to our wish. Everything is happening according to his design, right? Not even a blade of grass can move without his desire, right? So it is important to understand that. So when the human being he gets this akanksha, when he has this desire for mukti, then it is the responsibility of Paramatma to show the path, right? So he will show the right path, and he will if the human being has that cheshta within him, he takes the effort, then Paramatma guides that sadhaka all the way through, right? So for that, what it needs bhakti bhava, right? Without bhakti bhava, nothing happens. You need to have bhakti bhava towards that Paramatma. When you have that bhakti bhava, then automatically Paramatma is willing to shower his kripa vrishti on that sadhaka. So that is what we learned last week. So we talked about the Taraka Brahma, one who is a tangent between the Nirguna and Saguna Brahma, because the Saguna Brahma cannot help the jivas get emancipated, because Saguna Brahma is very busy in managing the Srishti. Nirguna Brahma cannot help, Saguna Brahma cannot help. So who can help? It is the Taraka Brahma, one who helps us cross this samsara sagara. He's a kalyanakari, kalyana janakaha, and he helps the human beings know the technique for progressing spiritually. So far we learned in the last class. So we'll now continue. Although it is difficult to find a Sadguru, from there we'll continue. So Pushpalata Bhagini, do you want to take?
Bhagini. Although it is difficult to find a Sadguru, great preceptor, it is not necessary to search for one in jungles, mountains and caves in accordance with popular belief. The purpose of the qualified supreme entity in manifesting the creation is to obtain emancipation for each one of its units. In order to fulfill this purpose, it will have to appear before anyone who has an yearning for emancipation. This yearning, a state of mental uneasiness caused by the intense desire for emancipation, heralds the arrival of the opportune moment. The qualified supreme entity in the form of great preceptor will appear to those who have reached this opportune moment by virtue of their intense desire for liberation. If this were not so, the purpose of the creation would not be served. It would be merely a trap, and the creator, the qualified supreme entity, would become the cause of bondage. Hence, to wander through jungles and ever over mountains in quest of a great preceptor is futile. What is most essential is to kindle in one's art, earning an entire desire for emancipation. So we cannot find a Sadguru. It is difficult to find a Sadguru, and this Sadguru, it is not necessary to find only in jungles and in caves or some, and in different spots. It is shown to us when we have an earning for emancipation, and we earn for it by doing sadhana. When this opportune moment comes for us to earn for this moment, the supreme entity himself will show will come in the form of preceptor, will appear to those and will show the way for emancipation from this Pashu Jivana. For this, the Bhakti Bhava, or the earning for that opportunity moment, should be taken up in an intense way. That's what is said in this paragraph.
Yes, Bhagini, nicely said. Yeah, that is the idea over here. So the message in this paragraph is important one. So see, if you think carefully, most people do not have to go to the Himalayas, or they do not have to go to jungles in search of a guru, right? So even if somebody is living in Africa, right, they also may get the scope to learn sadhana, right? So in this universe we have only one jati, which is the Manava jati, right? So that we should not think that in order to progress spiritually, we should not think that the society is divided into divisions of jatis, right, within human beings. All human beings are the same. So somebody may take birth as a woman in Iceland, and then the next time they may take birth as a man in Singapore, right? That is how it works. So the jiva has nothing to do with their gender, or somebody is unmuted. Okay. So the jiva has nothing to do with their gender or color of the skin or the language they speak or which country they were born. So in this life they may be born in one place. We don't know where they were born in the previous life, right? And what was the skin color of their skin, or what language they spoke, right? Or what their gender was, right? So to do this division is actually injustice. It would be injustice. So this opportunity for progressing spiritually is available for everybody, anybody who has a human body, right? Human body and a mind. So this spiritual journey is an inner journey, right? Is an inner journey, and Paramapurusha is not hard of hearing. He's Sarvagnya. He knows, and he's everywhere. He's everywhere. He knows everything, and one doesn't need to do loud chanting, and one doesn't need to travel to a certain place, right? And there is no place which is more holy than another place. He is everywhere, right? Everything is made of that supreme entity, right? So this is the universal teaching of yoga, that Paramapurusha is everywhere, right? There is no place where he is not there. So if he is everywhere, how can one place be more holier than something else, right? So if somebody has a deep desire for that infinite, then it becomes the duty of Paramapurusha to come and show the way. So that is the great preceptor. So no human being can be a great preceptor. So Brahmaiva ekaha guruhu na paraha. The Brahma can only be guru, nobody else, right? So all human beings are sadhakas. They are travelers on the path, right? They cannot be great preceptors. No human being is a sarvagnya. No human being is everywhere, right? No human being is able to see everything, right? All of us are santana of that Paramapurusha, right? And when the santan is ready, right, so then it becomes a responsibility of Brahma to manifest before that person and show him the path in whatever way he thinks, whatever way that Paramapurusha thinks appropriate, right? So so the entity that is who is responsible, who is loving, and who cares for all the jivas, who has a loving relationship with all the jivas, just like a mother who has a 2-month-old baby, right? So that loving entity is the Taraka Brahma who helps us to cross the samsara sagara, right? So the 2-month-old baby is there. The mother knows that baby will ultimately slowly learn to walk, right? But at 2 months she doesn't expect the baby to walk, right? She doesn't expect the baby is going to walk, right? But when the baby is ready, right, when it is 12 months of age or a little bit more than that, and then when it is struggling and when it is trying to get up, then mother will say, come, 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 come. Mother will say, come, come, and mother also will hold the hands like that. When the jiva is ready, right, when the jiva is ready and when the jiva is ready to struggle and jiva is trying, then Paramapurusha will say, come, 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 and Paramapurusha will give the helping hand. It becomes a duty, just like it becomes a duty of mother to help the child when the child is ready and encourage the baby, right? Paramapurusha is also exactly like that. He knows, right, he's a Jagat Pita. He knows that somebody who is in the shape of the mouse has come in the form of the mouse, and they don't have the capacity, right? So for that mouse, Paramapurusha is not going to say, come, 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 right? Because that jiva is not ready. He's still not ready. He's like a baby, right? So the jivatma that is inside a human being has that opportunity, and when the jivatma realizes that they want to progress forward, right, and they realize that I don't want this pashujivanam anymore, and they have the developed structure, the body structure, to support the desire for the infinite, and then they're ready to move forward, then Paramapurusha will say, come, 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 and Paramapurusha will extend the hand and it will guide us, right? So just like we say that mind is like a puddle of water, right? If on the road, if there's a puddle of water, right, on a full moon night, if the puddle has mud in it, then it's not going to reflect the full moon. But if the water is clear, right, then the full moon gets fully reflected. In the same way, the human mind is unique, that it has a fully developed Mahat Tattva, Aham Tattva, and Chitta, right? Mahat Tattva is fully developed, and because of that, mind becomes an effective reflecting plate for Paramapurusha, right? So most people contaminate that mind with all kinds of worldly things, due to which they cannot feel that within them, right? They have the scope, they have the capacity, but they do not direct their mind in that direction, right? So what happens is, when they do not direct their their mind in that direction, then they get degraded, right? So a mice cannot do sadhana. As long as a mice is alive, it cannot have any progress, right? The only progress is that from mice it may progress to next level of animal life, but it cannot directly progress from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock. They do not have the advanced Mahat Tattva within them, right? So the beauty of Yoganishta Jivanam is that it encourages the development and the purification of the mind, so it becomes a clear water on the road, and to properly reflect the full moon. And so then what happens is that sadhaka cultivates a deep, intense desire, right? When the sadhaka is ready, he develops a deep attraction for that Paramapurusha, for that pure supreme consciousness, right? So the message over here is very important. We know that people, when they're traveling, when people travel to different holy places, they're running blindly from place to place. So it is not going to help. We need to go inwards. That is what Shiva also told Parvati in the Agama Nigama, right? Tirtam idam tirtam, Brahmanti tamasaha janaha. right? Tamasic people keep running from here and there, right? Atmatirtham na jananti katam moksho varanane. How can they get, when they don't know the Atmatirtham, how will they get the moksha? So there is no use running blindly from place to place. If they do not have the desire within them for the knowing that supreme entity, then it's not going to help going from place to place. And if they have the desire to know that infinite, they do not need to go anywhere. All the places in the world are the same, right? We have seen the Srishti Chakra and we know, right? When we get down to 6 o'clock at Kshiti Tattva, right? So from there we have to progress. How we have to progress, we know that, right? We progress systematically. We get at 10 o'clock the human birth, right? So the different places of the world, different places, they are all made of the same Kshiti Tattva, right? So we cannot say one a place which is located in one place is more holier than something which is located in another place. So what is actually required is a journey within, right? We need to have that intense desire for that infinite, right? So mukti akanksha yada bhavati tada sadguru praptihi. So when you have that mukti akanksha, when you have the desire for mukti, then that infinite will appear before us. So the deep desire is the most critical thing. So that is why we can see that even if a person was a thief, right? Let's say in the initial years of his life he was a thief, and then later on something changes and he gets a deep desire for that infinite, then automatically he gets the right guru, and he progress spiritually, and what he did before, everything is gone. So that mukti akanksha should come from within, and that is the driving force in spirituality, right? So not praying to God to get something, right? Not trying to get something from God, but actually falling in love with that supreme entity, having a deep desire to know that entity, right? So bhakti bhava is very, very important to progress spiritually. Okay, so that is what this paragraph entails. Now we can get to the next paragraph. Chandrasekhar Mohdaya, do you want to take it?
Sure, Mohdaya. It is necessary to know what the qualities of a great preceptor are, so that even the ignorant may recognize that person. Is the possession and display of supernatural or divine powers the characteristic of the great preceptor, Sadguru? A great preceptor is an emancipated person and is master of all the supernatural powers, but does one have to display them to be recognized as a preceptor? We saw earlier that the use of supernatural powers under any circumstances leads to degradation, as they bring the user under the control of avidya, but avidya cannot attract or have any influence over a liberated person. Such a one will not be influenced by avidya maya under any circumstances. Oh, I'm sorry, I've been saying avidya maya, under any circumstances. Thus, the person who claims to be a great preceptor because of supernatural powers or who displays them is only an impostor. Such a person is not emancipated and can never liberate others. Such a person should be avoided like a venomous serpent. So in this paragraph, it starts talking about how do you recognize Sadguru, or what are the qualities or things that one can perceive to know that this person is the great preceptor. In that, it highlights that it wouldn't be someone who displays it in any display of supernatural power. The emancipated person will have supernatural powers just by the fact that he would possess all the results of the sadhana the great preceptor may have been doing or would have been doing, but they would not use that supernatural powers, because that's not the way to help anyone to reach that emancipation or emancipated state. Because we've talked about if that the person with the great supernatural power starts using it, displaying that supernatural power, then they get under the control of avidya maya, and the avidya maya is really would cause degradation more than help them reach emancipation. So if you do see, this one reiterates, someone showing supernatural power, that one should avoid them like a venomous snake, because that they wouldn't be able to help one reach emancipation. They just would bury one more and more in the avidya maya. That's about. It starts talking about what are the qualities and things that shows who this great preceptor is, and I assume it's probably going to continue bringing out how one recognizes such a Sadguru.
Yeah. Nicely said, Mahodaya. So we said that in the previous paragraph that Taraka Brahma is the one who has taken the help of the Panchabhutas, right? And he helps somebody, a human being who has a sincere desire for mukti or moksha, right? So in this paragraph it is being said that right, it is when there is an opportune moment, and when you have that mukti akanksha, you will recognize the guru. That guru will appear in front of you and you will recognize that person, and that person doesn't have to display any siddhis. He doesn't have to display any occult powers, because if somebody who is on the path and who gets the siddhis, right, and starts using it, right, so and then it becomes like a magic show. There is nothing transcendental about that. It's some crude use of the powers granted by prakriti, right? So if such a person is using the siddhis, then he is only degrading himself, right? So he is actually falling off from the path, and that actually leads to adogati. Right? There's nothing transcendental about the usage of the siddhis, right? So like throwing a book in the air using their mind, right? There's nothing spiritual about that. So what a great preceptor has is this divine love which no human being can possess, that the person has a desire for infinite, right? So that the person who has a desire for the infinite, when they come in contact with that great preceptor who has this divine love, they will feel an inner connection, right? So they will feel an inner connection automatically, and they will recognize that person, right? So like if your inner eyes have opened, you will understand and you'll connect with that person who has a divine love. But if your inner eyes have not opened, and even if that great preceptor is walking on the road, you will not recognize that great preceptor, right? So when there is an opportune moment, then it becomes the responsibility of Paramapurusha to make that Taraka Brahma appear before that sadhaka, so that he can learn the secrets of Paramapurusha. Secrets of Paramapurusha are only known to Paramapurusha, nobody else, right? No human being can know the secret of Paramapurusha, right? So when 99% of human beings, they're all leading the animal life, they don't have the deep desire within them, then they're not going to feel that spiritual vibration towards that great preceptor, that inner vibration, right? So it's not an external show of magic. So if the if the great preceptor were to be recognized by these show of magic or by the use of siddhis, right, then all the people in all the human beings around the world would be just running to see the magic show or come in their contact. So but actually such a person is only a person who is trying to do this magic show. He is only degrading himself, right? He is degrading himself and also misleading other people. He is misleading other people, therefore he is going to get adogati, right? So so a person who is having this inner desire, then the Taraka Brahma, he himself will appear before such a person, and it becomes the responsibility of Brahma to show the right path to the sadhaka, right? So that is what this paragraph is actually talking about. Okay, so a person who is showing all these magic tricks, such person should be avoided like a venomous serpent. We have to avoid such a person, right? If he's trying to, somebody is using the siddhis and trying to, even if he's trying to help somebody, even then, right, a person who has the siddhis, they're not supposed to use the siddhis under any circumstances, because usage of siddhis, they come under the bandhan of prakriti, they come under the bondage of prakriti. Okay, so we'll go to the next paragraph. So Dwarakanath Mohoday, you want to read, or you're only listening?
I will read from the display and position of supernatural or divine powers are not qualities by which a great preceptor can be recognized. A great preceptor is an emancipated person. A preceptor is free from influence of prakriti. Avidya Maya cannot entrap a Sadguru. 6 enemies, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, and the 8 fetters, Lajja, Bhaya, Ghrana, Shanka, Kula, Shila, Mana, Jugupsa, have no effect on an emancipated preceptor. Emancipated meaning, madam, in order to follow the dharma of creation.
Not under the bondage. Emancipated means somebody who is not under bondage.
Not under the bondage
of prakriti.
A Sadguru lives in complete harmony with Vidya Maya and practices Viveka and Vairagya. Such a person alone is a great preceptor. What are fetters called in Sanskrit?
Ashtapasha, pashaha.
Ashtapashaha.
Shadripavaha ashtapashaha.
Ashtapashaha. We can have a PDF this screen, no? It will be sent.
Yeah, it is already in the website. I have already put it in the website. I can share it with you.
Continue? Shall I continue?
No, yeah. Can you explain this paragraph?
Antashatru, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. For those and pashas, ashtapashas are pratibandhakas in spiritual progress. And these 6 enemies are neither enemies nor friends. We can educate them and use them for our welfare, spiritual and worldly welfare. And this vanity and all this hypocrisy and backbiting, this should be eradicated. Am I right, madam?
Yeah. So you are talking about the preceptor, the great preceptor, right? So who is a great preceptor? A great preceptor is one who has all these, looking at the inner qualities, right? If a great preceptor is in a human form, that we are looking at the inner qualities, that a person will have a very sukshma and subtle personality, right? And so they will be able to recognize something great, right? Most human beings cannot recognize, right? They are the great preceptors are they are the Taraka Brahma. They are a tangent between the Saguna and the Nirguna Brahma. They are not in the bandhan of the Prakriti. They are not entrapped by Avidya Maya. The Shadripus and Ashta Pashas do not entrap Sadguru, right? So Sadguru, he lives in complete harmony with the Vidya Maya and practices Viveka and Vairagya, right? So Sadguru is not looking at superficial things. He is not looking to make money or bhoga, right? Then if you're looking for bhoga, then Sukshmata is not something which is on your radar screen, right? So then if it's not on your radar screen, you're not going to find it. Right? So the point here is that Taraka Brahma, who is located at 12 o'clock in the Srishti Chakra, he doesn't need to show anything or prove anything to anybody. He has that spiritual vibration which emanates from him, that people whose inner eyes have opened will automatically recognize it, right? So those people who are in the business of showing things and doing siddhis and all that, you can be rest assured that they are not Taraka Brahma. So right, if they come in the human form, when Taraka Brahma comes in the human form, and that entity will have no defects. They are the manifestation of perfection. That will be very, very subtle manifestation. They're not going to be out there showing, trying to show off anything. They have no need to show anything to anybody. They will be a perfect example of dharma. They are manifestation of that dharma. They will not try to show anything to anybody in terms of demonstrating or showing off, right? So those who are looking for such things, they will see it right away. So they will be attracted. That will be very minority, not the whole majority, right? So the Shadripus, Ashtapashas will be absent in such an entity. But the main thing is the divine love, right? Because they are manifestation of that Sachidananda, right? They are Ananda Swarupa. So the divine love is the main thing, and that is very, very subtle, right? And if the inner eyes are opened, they will feel that vibration. They'll feel so deeply attracted, right? And so the avidya, they are in complete balance with the Vidya Maya, right? So the Viveka and Vairagya is helping your sadhana to progress ahead in life, right? So the Prakriti has like different names, Vidya Maya and Avidya Maya. In the Pratisanchar Dhara, Vidya Maya is predominant, and if you use the support of Vidya Maya, you can progress forward. And in Sanchar Dhara, Avidya Maya is predominant, right? So at 10 o'clock for human beings, we have an opportunity of whether using the Avidya Maya or Vidya Maya. If you use the Vidya Maya, you can progress forward, right? So that is what this paragraph is talking about. So Vidya Maya is a helping force. It's a helping force within that cosmic dream, right? So it helps us to progress forward. Okay, any thoughts or questions on this? Okay, Pushpalata Bhagini, agree.
Intuitional practice, sadhana, has to be learned from a great preceptor, and emancipation is obtained by its systematic practice. Nothing can be achieved by merely depending on the preceptor without carrying out intuitional practice, that is the sadhana. Everyone should carry out intuitional practice. Emancipation is not possible without it. Some people have the erroneous impression that they do not have to make an effort, that they will attain emancipation due to the grace of the preceptor. It is true that liberation is not possible without the great preceptor's kindness, but one is mistaken if one thinks that liberation can be obtained without effort. So now, the intuitional practice or the sadhana has to be learned only from a great preceptor or the Sadguru, and the emancipation is possible only through systematic practice. Nothing can be achieved only by depending on the great preceptor, and efforts should be taken by the sadhaka to move forward and to get himself emancipated. They should do sadhana or the intuitional practice. Emancipation is not possible without it. But some have that, some are mistakenly believing that they without effort get emancipated with the help of the great preceptor, but it is not so. So they have to put in efforts, and it is not possible, and emancipation is not possible without a great preceptor's kindness. So this liberation is possible only if the sadhaka puts in effort, and this is possible only through a great preceptor. This paragraph essentially says that.
Yes, Bhagni, nicely said. Thank you so much. So this intuitional practice, sadhana in English we call as intuitional practice, or we can also call it as meditation. So this sadhana is not some vague effort, vague sort of general effort. It refers to a process of making the mind one-pointed, removing the mind from the world, right? Making it one-pointed, removing the mind from the world, and merging the mind in a systematic way into the infinite, right? Just like a drop of water, when it gets dropped into the ocean, becomes one with the ocean, right? So there we find that 1 plus 1 is not 2, 1 being the jiva and 1 being the Shiva. So jiva plus Shiva equals Shiva. Jiva plus Shiva does not equal to jiva Shiva, right? There is no 2, it becomes 1. Just like when you put the salt in the water, the salt dissolves in the water and becomes one with the water. In the same way, when the jiva is put into Shiva, the jiva merges into that Shiva, right? So it is a scientific, sadhana is a scientific practice. It is done sitting in Padmasana, right? It's a very, very specific practice, and that a sadhaka has to engage in, right? When one does that practice, and one is living that yoganishta jivanam, everything that we talked about as sadhana angas, right? So then one becomes successful in the practice of sadhana, right? So one needs to put in that cheshta, one needs to put in that effort, right? If somebody is taking tamasic food and leading a very crude lifestyle, right, drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes, then the mind will get dragged downward by those things, and the person will not be able to engage in sadhana, right? And also there is yama niyama that needs to be followed. So we'll be talking about that in the following sessions, right? So yama niyama, the spiritual morality is needed, right? In addition to the sahajana itikta, we also need the spiritual morality, right? We'll be talking about those, right? And all the different practices, nirjalopasa, vairagya, all of these things are supportive of sadhana, right? So one has to engage in the intuitional practice. Sadhana is absolutely essential, right? So this whole yoga is based on the idea that as you think, so you become. Yadrishi bhavana yasya siddhihi bhavati tadrishi, right? So the mind has 3 parts: the mahat tattva, aham tattva, and chitta. Chitta being the movie screen of the mind. The chitta takes the form of whatever aham tattva wants it to take the form of, right? So if the chitta is taking the form of the crude things, right, then the mind degenerates. And if the mind is thinking of Paramapurusha, which happens in a systematic way through sadhana, then the mind slowly starts taking those qualities of Paramapurusha, right? So of course the grace of Paramapurusha is needed, but if one is thinking that without doing sadhana liberation can be attained, then one is mistaken. Grace of Paramapurusha is absolutely needed. Paramapurusha's grace is ahetuki kripa, right? So that kripa varsha is absolutely required, right? So Paramapurusha doesn't prefer one person over another person. His love is universal for all. If somebody is leading a crude life, they are not going to feel that love coming from Paramapurusha. They're not going to feel that kripa vrishti, because they're holding this umbrella. They're holding this umbrella of vanity. When you hold this umbrella of vanity over your head, then you cannot feel Paramapurusha's kripa, But when you remove that umbrella, then you can feel that Paramapurusha's kripa, right? So then you can actually progress in your sadhana, right? So that is what this paragraph is talking about. The next paragraph, Chandrasekhar Mohdaya.
One must deserve kindness, and then alone will it be bestowed. It is never showered on an undeserving disciple. To deserve the grace of the Sadguru, one has to follow the system of intuitional practice with devotion and faith, and not assume that the great preceptor will freely give everything without any effort on the part of the disciple. Other people think that since they are the disciples of a great preceptor, and since Sadguru has come to elevate the fallen, the preceptor will take them all along when leaving. In the same way as a cowherd gathers together all grazing cattle before leaving the pasture at dusk. This way of thinking is not correct. A great preceptor does not come into this world to herd his disciples like cattle. The great preceptor comes to liberate people, to elevate them to divinity. People must make a sincere effort to carry out intuitional practice, sadhana. Idle dependence on the preceptor cannot obtain emancipation. So in this paragraph, it clarifies that just depending on the Sadguru to just take them along to give them emancipation out of kindness, just because Sadguru has the ability to help one attain emancipation. This clarifies that that does not mean that you don't have to make any effort. Sadguru does not just freely give that like herding and taking all the people along when Sadguru leaves. So one has to deserve, one has to work hard to get that emancipation. So the disciple has to do their sadhanas, has to do their this effort, and like it originally said, you have to not only have the desire for that emancipation, the earning for the emancipation, you have to continue even with the preceptor to work to fructify that yearning and the desire for emancipation. Then Sadguru would help. Otherwise, just being a devotee and the disciple of Sadguru, just that alone is not enough. A lot of people mistakenly think that just because they are, with the Sadguru, they will just automatically attain that emancipation. And this tries to clarify that that's an incorrect thinking, that you have to work your part. You have to deserve to attain the emancipation. Sadguru will show you the way and would help you, as long as you make that sincere sadhana and an effort to gain that emancipation.
Yes, Maureen, nicely said. So what we need to understand that is that spiritual path is not a passive path, right? That we can just simply sit and we'll get mukti and moksha, right? So or we'll get the grace of that Supreme. It's not going to be like that, because one has to become a Yogya Patra, right? One has to become a Yogya Patra. How do you become a Yogya Patra? You become the Yogya Patra by following the Yoganishta Jivanam, right? And by doing such a thing, when what happens, it is just like a magnet and piece of iron, right? If the iron becomes pure, then it becomes more attractive to the magnet. So the magnet is the attractive force, right? And it is not by our propelling force that we move towards Paramapurusha, but he is that force, he is that magnet, and those who live a crude life, then just like a piece of iron that has mixed plastic in it, they do not get attracted to that supreme entity because of the plastic and impurities in the iron, right? They're not going to be strongly attracted to the magnet. So that is in our hands. To become pure iron is in our hands. That is a very powerful thing, right? So if you do not want to do it, then we're not going to be attracted, right? And we're not going to be drawing close to that magnet because of that. So Paramapurusha is like a great magnet, and we become very attracted to that we forget everything else in life, and this is the main focus and becomes everything in life by following the Yoganishta Jivanam. By following that, mind becomes sattvic, and it develops a deeper and deeper feeling of love and attraction for the Supreme, right? Which is called as Bhakti Bhava. Everything one does ultimately is to please that Paramapurusha. So when somebody falls in love, we just like it is like two teenagers. When they fall in love, they forget about everything else, and all they want is meet the lover, right? So that is just an ordinary love. Like just like that, here we are talking about not an ordinary love, we are talking about divine love. We are talking about just like two lovers, they cannot they're always constantly thinking about the lover. Like that, Paramapurusha is that lover for us, and if you're constantly thinking of Paramapurusha, then you can become one with that entity, right? And by doing sadhana, you can become one with that entity. This is like, it's just a crude example just for understanding, right? So just like if you think about Mirabai was thinking about Krishna all the time, right? So thinking about Krishna all the time. So that is the highest form of bhakti, that when you fall in love with that supreme entity, then that becomes, your mind becomes one pointed towards that entity. And Yoganishta Jivanam fully supports that, right? So by following the Yoganishta Jivanam, you are making the mind more and more shuddha, making it more sattvic. Then now the iron becomes more and more pure. Then it gets automatically attracted to that supreme entity, right? So we need the grace. We need to follow the Yoganishta Jivanam. We need the grace of Paramapurusha. And when the mind becomes pure, it will merge with that supreme entity. You lose interest in all the mundane things, right? Because the mind has got something better, right? When it got something better, then it is running in that direction. So this is not a very passive pathway. It is a very active one, right? So the message over here is very important. It's not like grazing cattle and a cow herd, right? Just takes them at dusk. Right? That is just dogma. So effort is required at the level of sadhaka. Then only the progress happens. Okay. Next paragraph, Dwarkanath Mohdaya.
Sadhana is the effort to free oneself from the
before the one, when one first starts intuitional practice.
Intuitional practice, problems arise and present obstacles to its pursuit. Sadhana or intuitional practice is the effort to free oneself from the bondage of Prakriti. This subjugation is maintained due to the self-created distortions in the mind. In order to obtain liberation, the mind has to be restored to its natural state by removing these distortions. It was shown earlier that these are the reactions of one's actions and cannot be removed without being experienced. So emancipation is not possible until one has completely experienced the remaining reactions of one's previous lives. Ordinary people experience these reactions in the normal way, and if any still remain when they die, they are reborn to exhaust them. Those who pursue intuitional practice do not want to born again to experience these remaining reactions. In their eagerness to attain emancipation quickly, they hasten to exhaust the balance of reaction in this life. So they should regard problems as a good sign, as they speed up the exhaustion of the remaining reactions. How they speed up the remaining reactions? How they exhaust?
So a person who is who was engaged in sadhana and he's constantly thinking about Paramapurusha, for such a person, the sanskaras get exhausted quickly. The sanskaras get exhausted quickly, and he will be able to merge with the supreme entity in this life itself. So that is what happens. A person who is a sadhaka and who is engaged in sadhana twice a day and constantly thinking about Paramapurusha, for him the papa and punya, the purva janma sanskaras get exhausted quickly, and as part of the sadhana he ultimately reaches the dagda bija avastha, where all the sanskaras get burnt and he merges with its supreme entity. So you want to explain this paragraph, Mode?
I could. Shall I explain?
Yeah, we go line by line.
When one starts intuitional practice, problems arise and present obstacles to its pursuit. Sadhana or intuitional practice is the effort to free oneself from the bondage of Prakriti. This subjugation is maintained due to the self-created distortions in the mind. Give an example, madam, how mind creates distortions.
Yeah, okay. So is there anything that you got from this paragraph? Otherwise I'll go ahead and explain this paragraph.
I explained the paragraph, madam.
Okay. So this paragraph has a very important teaching. That is, there are always obstacles in life, right? There are always obstacles in life, and we should embrace those obstacles and see them in a positive way. Like for instance, right, initially when you learn sadhana, you have to sit in Padmasana, right? You have to sit in Padmasana and do sadhana. Let's say you're doing sadhana for 30 minutes. So initially your legs may not cooperate, right? You may not be able to sit in Padmasana. Your legs may start hurting, and you may not be able to focus in sadhana, right? So these are all obstacles. This is a simple example of obstacles in sadhana, right? Initially you may not be able to focus on Paramapurusha. Your mind is getting distracted, your mind is restless, your mind, we know that mind is like a monkey, the jumping from one topic to another, right? So there you could get obstacles, right? So there are so many obstacles. Your mind, you're not having interest in sadhana initially, that is also an obstacle, right? So just like in life we have obstacles, and we should embrace those obstacles and see them in a positive way, right? So when you're walking on ice, right? I'm just going to put you on mute for a second. So when you are walking on ice, what happens? You need some friction in order to be able to move forward, right? So those obstacles in life, right, we should think them as, we should take them in a positive way. Like for instance, as I was saying, your legs are not cooperating, you're not able to sit in Padmasana, your legs are hurting, right? So just because your legs are hurting, you will not stop doing sadhana. You will slowly, with the perseverance, you will sit in sadhana, and then after a point in time, sitting in sadhana in Padmasana will not be difficult at all, right? It needs abhyasa. So just because we are having problem initially, we will not stop doing sadhana. So like this, there can be different kinds of obstacles, right? Anybody who is doing dharmic work, there is going to be opposition, right? So the Atma Moksha and Jagat Hit, like for instance, initially when you learn sadhana, it is quite possible that you want to do sadhana, but the environment in your house is not allowing, giving you the opportunity to do that. You're interested in engaging in yogic life, but your family circumstances and whatnot, or your friends may not allow you to progress in it. Those are all obstacles. They're all obstacles. So how you get over those obstacles, how do you struggle and get over those obstacles is very important, right? So if you feel that no, my friends are more important, and you give up, then you're not going to progress forward, right? So when you engage in dharmic work, there is obviously going to be obstacles. One should welcome those obstacles as an opportunity for moving forward beyond them. So it needs to have some friction, just like walking on the roadway. So here, even though it may be easier to walk on the ice or on the roadway, but in sadhana, one needs to have firm determination, right? Palishyati iti vishwasah. I need to have the determination that I will be successful. That vishwasa is very important for a sadhaka. So the sadhaka needs to have a positive mind. Palishyati iti vishwasah, right? So then mind will never become negative, and he will have the motivation to find solutions to the problems, right? There is always solution to every problem, right? So mind will be able to find the solutions and to move forward, right? So this world is a beautiful jagat which is created by Paramapurusha, and the goal of life is that supreme entity. Everything is for him. Everything, whatever happens in this world, is just part of the journey to please him and ultimately merge in him. So what could be negative in this world, right? Nothing could be negative. So these obstacles are the way that we can burn our samskaras, the abhukta pratikriya, that reaction, the unexperienced reaction to the previous actions, whether from this life or the past life, right? So all of those, what we need to get expressed, it will get burnt. The samskaras will get burnt, and in that way there will be nothing remaining at the time of death. So this is the path of the yoganishta jivanam, and the ananda will be expressed in this life itself, right? And you will get the mukti moksha, right? So this world is not a place of sorry,
wait, what is vishwasah? Paristhiti is vishwasa.
Palishyati iti vishwasah means that I have the firm determination that I will be successful. Vishwasa means I have the firm belief that I will be successful, right? That belief if you have, then automatically you will be able to move forward. So first of all, if you don't believe that I will be successful in this path, then any small obstacle comes, you will give up, right? Uttama Purusha, who is a Uttama Purusha, is that even if there is a small obstacle, he will say, no, I don't want to proceed. An Adama Purusha is one, if there is a small obstacle, he will say, I don't want to proceed. There are obstacles. He's thinking of the obstacles and he doesn't want to do good work, right? But a Uttama Purusha is, even if there are obstacles, he knows what the goal is and he'll work towards them, getting rid of the obstacles, right? So one needs to have that vishwasa, that palishyati iti vishwasaha, right? So there are 7 factors of success, and first factor is palishyati iti vishwasaha. Palishyati iti vishwasaha iti siddhehe prathama lakshanam, right?
That Devanagari script, please type or put it in the website, madam. I cannot listen correctly. What is vishwasah?
Vishwasah is a firm belief.
Parnidaya is vishwasah. Parnidaya.
Palishyati iti vishwasah means Palishyati iti vishwasah means I have the firm belief that I will be successful in this path.
Yadrishi bhavana yasya dash tadrishi. What is it? Fill up the dash.
Yadrishi bhavana yasya siddhihi bhavati tadrishi. As your mind thinks, so it becomes. If your mind is constantly thinking of Paramapurusha, then it becomes like Paramapurusha. It gets the qualities of Paramapurusha. If your mind is constantly thinking about money, then it becomes crude like money. If your mind is constantly thinking of alcohol, then it becomes crude like alcohol, right?
Jiva plus Shiva is equal to?
Jiva plus Shiva is equal to Shiva. Okay. Okay. So these obstacles are very important. There is nothing negative about them. Whatever is happening by the grace of that Supreme, right? So that doesn't mean we'll not fight against injustice. That needs to be understood, right? So there are people in this world who are exploiters, right? They're doing all kinds of negative things, and right. It is a duty of a sadhaka to fight against these obstacles, these exploiters, right? We should engage in jagat hit, and we should fight against exploitation, but with a feeling of vairagya of the mind, right? The mind not being colored by the world, right? And with a feeling of closeness to Paramapurusha. Paramapurusha is within me, and he is helping. His kripa is there, his grace is there. So with that, one will be able to get rid of these obstacles and move forward. There is no need to get depressed, right? There's no need to get depressed. So this path is a path of ananda, right? When you're thinking about Sachidananda, so it cannot be nothing but it can only be ananda, nothing other than ananda. So Paramapurusha is always helping us. So with the thought of Paramapurusha, we should move forward. Okay? That is what this paragraph is talking about. Okay. Any thoughts or comments? Okay. So we will actually conclude the session over here for today. If there are no questions, we'll move forward next week. धन्यवादः नमस्कारः.
धन्यवादः नमस्कारः.
धन्यवादः भगिनी.
धन्यवादः नमस्कारः.
भगिनी, विश्वासः paraphrase, put it in the Devanagari lipi or IAST.
Yeah. Okay.
धन्यवादः भगिनी.
धन्यवादः नमस्कारः.